Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. We are back from Baby Break 3. It was a long 4 weeks, I know, but we are here. And this week, we are discussing chapter 72 through 75 of Words of Radiance, book 2 of the Stormlight Archive. That takes us through the end of part 4. And in these chapters, Kaladin and Shallan make it through a chasm fiend attack and a high storm out in the, I almost said pits, they're chasms. That's the word that I was looking for. And then they make it back home. And somewhere in the middle there, we get a hell of a flashback as well. So I'm Data, and with me today is
Joe and Dak.
No Jaymee today. She'll be back when she feels like she's got a handle on juggling these things, which one baby is difficult enough. So
I've never tried throwing two babies in the air at once.
In the air at the same time.
Yeah, I don't imagine that's easy.
One of them ain't a baby anymore.
That's true. More demanding now.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be like, in the coming months, I'll take one and she'll take the other.
That's fair.
But we'll sort it out.
But for now, the three of us are going to go through these chapters. So hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin. So yeah, we read, it was 4 chapters this time. And I'll pause for a second to say that I'm sorry. I wanted to put together something during the 4 weeks that we were off, and Joe and his wife even had suggestions, and people on the Discord had suggestions, and I had ideas before we even started, and every single thing I tried to kind of plan for just fell apart and didn't work. For instance, somebody in the Discord was like, "Hey, you guys should do another 1-star review episode, but for like not Words of Radiance. That would be a bad idea. For like The Way of Kings." And I was like, "Oh, that could be fun." And then I started looking at 1-star reviews for The Way of Kings, and they weren't fun. They were just kind of downers. And I was like, "Okay, this would not make a good episode. This is not enjoyable." So all of my ideas turned out terrible in the end, and I'm sorry. That is why we didn't end up with anything. But we're back now. So what did you two fellows think about these 4 chapters?
Well, hey, there was a fight. It was pretty cool. This fight would definitely be something that I would want to see in I don't know. I almost wonder if this should be an animated series as opposed to like a live action series. I feel like an animated version of this fight would be real cool. Live action, I feel like you could do it. Might not be as, I don't know. It doesn't seem as interesting to me as to watch live action, but who am I to make that decision? But no, cool scene. The sword popping out from the last chapter. Kaladin having to use the sword. Them carving out the stone with said sword to hide from the storm. Whoa, my dog's. Yeah, you need to chill out for just a sec, okay? He's growling at me because he wants to be fed, but it's like way early. We usually don't feed him till like an hour after this.
I was wondering what that sound was. What did he do?
I don't know what his deal is. He does this little thing where he looks at me impatiently and then he just goes because he wants me to do something, either feed him, let him out, something, but usually it's feed him. Anyway. So yeah, very cool stuff. A little downer with the Stormfather basically saying, "Yeah, like Syl's dead." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" But then later, I feel like Pattern gives us some kind of info that indicates that maybe she's not dead in the sense that like a normal person would consider dead. So there is, I guess, maybe a little bit of hope on that front. And then we've got Shallan doing her Shallan thing. It was nice to see Navani kind of accept her finally and be like, "You're one of my family. I'm so glad you're alive." That was kind of a nice little moment.
Yeah.
The flashback, I think maybe I was alone in this, but I was really thinking that the blade was going to come into play with her father's death, but it didn't. So we still don't really know where her blade came from, which is troubling because the events of her father dying kind of lead almost straight up to the beginning of the last book. So we don't really know. I mean, I guess maybe we could assume that it came from the event with her, with whatever event happened with her mom, but we're not going to get answers from her dad about that because he's dead.
Yeah.
So we'd have to have some other kind of like flashback thing to get that. But yeah, everybody's back. There were some little bits in the storm where I think Kaladin must have been seeing Parshendi and the crazy Spren like transforming because they were seeing flashes of something crazy in the storm. But it was definitely an exciting end to the part for sure. We're like 81% of the way through the book now, so we're getting close to the end. So I would assume the Sander Lanch is going to be lanching soon. But I'm excited.
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of ideas we've had about Shallan Shardblade. Like, I think at first there were some theories that like maybe Hilarin's Shardblade end up with Shallan, and it's like, oh no, Amaram has that, and then maybe it'll come into play with like her dad dying. It's like, no, that was actually much sadder than just like stabbed with a Shardblade. So
yeah. Oh, and like after basically they both tell their stories to each other in the storm. Kaladin realizes like, oh, I'm pretty sure I'm the guy that killed her brother.
Yeah, how messed up is that? I mean, we knew that, but he didn't.
Not great. No, he didn't know that.
Yeah. But it's interesting you bring up the thing about it being animated. That there's been more rumbling in the community lately. There always is a debate going on about whether things, and in particular Stormlight, should be like in an anime style or even just animated versus live action. And Brandon has always been more on like this live action train, I guess you would say. And a lot of people at the convention, someone gets up and asks like, hey, watching the second season of Arcane, they're doing some really amazing animation stuff. Don't you think that would be a great fit for like Stormlight? And one of the things he said in his State of the Sanderson address that comes out in December is that there's actually they're working on an idea of like an animated adaptation for Tress of the Emerald Sea. But for these more mainline things, he's always been a little bit not on board with animation as much because things he said in the past, he's like, one thing I read was like, animation doesn't get new audiences. Like, people who like animation will go and watch that, but it doesn't get like this wider audience brought into it that you see with
I
like
guess that's
live
true.
action stuff. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's a solid argument.
I really want to argue against this and say that's not true, but I have no evidence to back that up. So
yeah, the only outliers I would say are like, I mean, is maybe like Avatar: The Last Airbender, but a lot of people caught on to that because of kids who are watching it and then introducing it to, their friends, family, whatever. But yeah, I think for the most part, that's kind of true.
And he's said more recently, like when he answered this person at the convention, he's like, I've been watching what's going on in like that area in animation, and it's changing some. Like there's becoming more mainstream like adult animation, which is what Stormlight would be. If it was going to be animation, it would be like an adult, not meant for kids necessarily thing. And so he's like, maybe if just the right opportunity came along, then maybe we would do that. But he's like in this position where he doesn't need the money that Hollywood might offer him. He would rather have the thing done well. And so if somebody comes up and they're like, we'll give you all this money and we'll make this thing, and he if he doesn't think it's going to come out well, he does not have to go for that. So he talked a lot about, when he answered this person's question, he's like, there's a difference between like Dune and the Halo TV show. And that is that like there was a talented filmmaker who was passionate about the source material and wanted to do justice to it with Dune, as opposed to the Halo TV show, which I guess he feels was more like, hey, money
made by committee.
Yeah. And so people have also asked him about crowdfunding. Like, why don't you like crowdfund this? And he's like, well, because like my company does not know how to do it, how to make this. So sure, we could raise $200 million and go to Hollywood and be like, hey, we have $200 million. Does somebody want to make this? And somebody would be like, yeah, sure, we'll take that money. But that doesn't mean that like something good would come out of it. So he's like, I'm considering lots of stuff, but really it's about like finding this partner who is skilled in this area, but also passionate about this thing in particular. And one thing he said is like, some of my stuff, like Mistborn, has been around long enough at this point that some people who are making their names in Hollywood now have grown up with this stuff. And maybe we're approaching that point where somebody with the power to do this will also have the passion for it. But yeah, so it seems like it's not even, although he's had worries about animation in the past, it's not even about animation versus live action necessarily. It's more about like finding the right partner, whether that is a studio that does animation or whether it's live action or whatever. But yeah, fun stuff. But yeah, and you're right that there was something weird going on out in that storm. And when we get to it, we'll look at the details of it and maybe theorize on it a little more. But yeah, something was happening there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think some Transformers was going on. They were more than meets the eye. Megatron. Megatron, you got to do like the cartoon Megatron voice. It's like, I'll get you, or whatever.
Starscream, why are you doing this?
Yeah, turning into a giant gun.
It's not even like a giant gun necessarily, because the gun fits in Starscream's hand in the original Transformers. So
yeah, but like, Starscream's a giant robot, isn't he?
But Megatron is also a giant robot.
Well, yeah, like, but I mean, something about the physics gun in the sense of like it's not
for a human.
It's not a human-sized gun.
Well, no, it is a human-sized gun, and that is a gun the size of a human.
Right. It's not a gun designed for a human to hold.
No.
There's probably an episode where a human's holding it.
Megatron have cannons on his shoulders. Why does he need to turn into a gun for someone else to fire? He can do it himself.
Because it's stronger. It uses all of the energy of his entire robot body.
I like it with Megatron.
I mean, I'm just making this up, but
that's as good as explanation as any.
Yeah. In Beast Wars, is he just Megatron? Does he not have a crazy beast name?
Yeah, I think he's just Megatron.
Not like Optimus Primal. He's not Megatronosaurus.
No, I think he named himself after the original Megatron or something. He's just Megatron.
Yeah, that makes sense. He like saw the old writings of the original Megatron.
But in the if you look at the you see the newest Transformers movie?
No, I haven't looked at it at all.
Like the guy in that one names himself after Megatronus, who was one of the primes. Apparently, like in the past, there were several primes, and like one of the most powerful was Megatronus. And he's like, okay, well, I love that guy. He has like his trading card or sticker or something. I don't remember.
His trading card.
I brought up the wiki article for Megatron from Beast Wars, and it says Megatron, aka Savage Noble, aka Gnash Teeth, aka Beast Megatron, aka Galavar, aka Joe.
Wait, Gavilar?
No, Galavar. Yeah, but it does sound very similar.
Yeah. Also, they call him Joe. No, that doesn't bode well for me.
Gave up on Transformers about 4 movies ago.
This is a guy who named himself after his faith's equivalent of the Antichrist.
What?
Okay, so apparently, no, Beast Wars Megatron. It says Megatron is a dreaded figure in the Covenant of Primus, an apocalyptic figure that threatens to shatter the fabric of time and defeat great heroes. So apparently there's like a mythical Megatron, and that's who Beast Wars Megatron names himself after.
Okay. Right. Is that the OG Megatron, but just,
No, because there's an article about original Megatron and says like maybe he also named himself after this guy. We just don't know that.
Oh my god.
What is happening?
Although that Megatron technically existed before they retroactively created this mythological figure. So
feeling real good about my decision to stay out of Transformers about 4 movies ago now.
Yeah. Well, Beast Wars was good. Beast Machines was not.
Although Beast Wars, the animation looks so bad now. I try to get the kids to watch it because it's such a good like story and stuff, but the animation is almost unwatchable with how far we've come since then.
Yeah, because you have to think it was like daytime TV CGI computer animation from 1999 maybe.
Anyway, we've gotten way far off. What did you think of these chapters?
Yeah, what did you think, Dak?
I think that was all my fault anyway.
This is what happens when Jamie's not here.
So I liked these. The fight with the Chasm Fiend and the Blade was fucking cool. Kind of comical when like basically Kaladin's legs are just poking out of its mouth and just like, Little help. Yeah, everything that went down at the storm, like the flashes of what they see up above, them telling their stories to each other, I was mostly on board for, except I couldn't help shake the uncomfortable feelings like, please don't set these two up for a romantic relationship. I'm not about that. So I'm hoping this is just them, like, becoming good friends, but I know some people are probably taking this and run with it and just going, oh, they're perfect for each other, which I'm not a shipper. I'm not about that life. So
Yeah.
Fair.
Not working on don't care for a thruple.
no, Christ no. I did have to, when the Stormfather showed up, I unintentionally laughed because Stormfather is giving Kaladin shit, and all I could think was, do you guys ever see the Book of Mormon, the musical?
Yeah.
Yeah. The bit where like the main guy has the vision of hell, and there's a big line, it's like, I can't believe Jesus called me a dick. That was played in my head, that entire conversation.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
I do remember the spooky Mormon hell dream. Yeah.
That's the one. Yep. Yeah. Stormfather called Kaladin a dick, and Kaladin's like, oh my god.
I never thought of it that way, that you have like this godlike figure that yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Now try and unsee that.
It's like, I knew you were gonna kill my child. It's like, oh, damn.
Yeah. Shallan's flashback was hectic. Okay, so we've finally seen how Daddy Dearest got his end. And it wasn't until it got to the end of it I thought, hang on a minute, wasn't there a butler who knows how the Soulcaster works? Where has he been this whole time?
That's a fair point. Yeah, we're told.
I think he's one of the new retinue, right?
Yeah,
Like
a few flashbacks ago, we're told that this new guy showed up, and but I don't know that we ever actually interact with him much. We're just told this Luesh guy is here now, and he's kind of weird.
Okay, so he is around. Okay, 'cause I forgot his name, and I do not remember that mentioned at all. It wasn't until I got to the end of this, and I was like, hang on a minute, going back to Way of Kings, where the fuck's this guy at? But that's all right. It's just something I've missed. It's been a while, people. But yeah, no, that chapter was very cool. On the one hand, I was like, I kind of wish Daddy Dearest got more of a violent comeuppance, but she got him in the way that she could, so I'll take it. Honestly, at least the fucker's dead.
Yeah, it's true. He did.
Put that on a shirt. And when they come back to the camp, Navani welcoming Shallan, I'm like, I have been waiting for this. Yes, finally, thank you. I'm happy.
Yeah, about time.
Yeah. So yeah, solid into the chapter. It was very much one of those, like, in the past you've been like the chapter right at the end of the part, the last chapter of the part is like monumental and huge. This one, it felt very much like we're getting the monumental stuff done in the chapters leading up to it, and this one is the bit of breathing room because it's just basically saying, all right, game time now. Let's refocus. So, but yeah, no, good chapters. Enjoyed.
I will definitely agree with you on one bit. There's some moments in there during the storm that it feels like maybe they could be building towards a romantic thing between these two, and that is not my favorite idea either. I'm not necessarily against shipping. I don't think that these two work that well together.
Yeah, I try and stay out of shipping in general. I've had friendships ended because of people who were shippers, so I'm just like, I'm very biased against them on that regard. I don't want to get involved in that. But also it's just like, all right, look at these characters. Like, I don't know, I like the idea of them being friends. I don't know, I don't really care if they if they want to be friends, that's great. But Shallan and Adolin have had really good chemistry, and they're already engaged. So let's just stick with that. Whatever's canon is good.
Yeah, well, and you make a good point that they are already and they've been fun together. Shallan and Adolin, absolutely, right? Yeah. But the added complication that if the story put Shallan and Kaladin together, then I feel like we like Kaladin and Adolin also, and that probably would not go well if Kaladin stole his girl.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I want Kaladin and Adolin to be buds.
Yeah, maybe we're building more towards a mutual admiration. You can admire your friend and think she's beautiful, and vice versa.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And not have those feelings. So maybe that's what we're building towards.
Yeah.
I agree. That would be better.
Yeah, and honestly, soap opera-y drama bullshit is one of my least favorite tropes. So I was like, I don't need a love triangle in the middle of this potential world-ending cataclysm.
Yeah. We've got enough to be getting on with, as it were.
Yeah. You imagine you just thrust that into the middle of everything. It's like the world's about to end. It's like, but I like both of these boys. What should we do?
I mean, you're describing a lot of fantasy series out there where it's like we're saving the world, but also like on an equal level is my romance drama.
And that's what that was why the friendship ended, because I'll give the brief notes. A friend of mine knew I was the only other person in the group who liked Avatar: The Last Airbender, asked me who my ships were, and I said whatever's canon, because that's like what happened. If they were meant to get together, they would have in canon. And this person shipped Zuko and Katara and was very offended by my answer. And I'm just like, but the world was about to end. Why is this important? Like, they could have all died. Then no one's going to pork no one.
Oh, Zutara shippers. That was I remember in the Avatar the Airbender fandom at especially during like season 3. This was a really big bone of contention between a lot of people, and then you have the other people who are like, they're like kids. What are you like? This is weird.
Yeah. They're all under the age of 18. Calm down.
Yeah. And so that ended a nearly 10-year-long friendship, and I was very confused by that. And also, shit canned the only game of D&D I had going at the time as well, because we were both in that group.
Ouch.
So I'm like, oh, good. So
Man.
I've lost a lot in this just because I'm like, I don't care about shipping.
Wow. Things getting serious over Avatar: The Last Airbender, huh?
Yeah. So that's why I'm opposed to shipping in general, because like people take it too seriously and it ruins some things.
What's your opinion on shipping? We'd like to know. At this end, actually, no, I don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
No.
I ship T-Rex and Stegosaurus.
Yeah, no, I ship Megatron and Starscream because he holds them like a gun.
But romantasy is like the new on the rise subgenre of fantasy. So
Oh, and let me be clear, I have no problem with that genre. I'll probably personally never read it, but like people are, if people want to read it and enjoy it, that's totally up to them. Like I'm not trying to yuck anyone's yum. But
right. No, but I was just saying, like, in terms of this idea that it's like the world is ending, but also my relationship drama, and so that apparently that's like where a lot of stuff is headed. So,
well, if that's the stuff people enjoy, they're welcome to read it. I'm a read my shit.
Yeah.
I got enough going on in my life. I don't need relationship drama.
I don't need fictional relationship drama.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into these chapters. I guess.
You can tell it's
nowhere
been a
to go
while.
from there. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that we've all three talked together in that amount of
Dak
time.
has been busy with a new baby.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he should.
We recorded our last episode. Less than a week later, baby came.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
How is it on the other side?
Good. We are a lot of adjustment, but things are going well. Older kiddo is besotted with her younger sister, which is great. But yeah, it was definitely. I knew it was going to be tricky going from one child to two, and it has been, but not in some of the ways I thought.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
it's every time is a new learning experience.
Yeah, right.
Oh, babies. Okay. Before we go down another rabbit hole, we could talk. That's a different podcast. It's the baby raising podcast. We could do that also, but
Yeah. I don't know that anybody wants to hear from three dads about how to raise kids.
No.
3 men and some babies. What a great podcast name.
Yeah,
Also,
3 men and 5 right now, 5 babies.
Yeah. By the way, listeners, sorry, didn't name the kid after a Samson character. Sorry.
It's okay.
We do not have baby Shallan.
That wouldn't be a good choice.
No.
There's worse options.
True. Baby Vin would also be interesting.
That was
we
found out
better
that
stop. We're gonna offend somebody.
Before we found out that we were having boys, Vin was totally one that I was like, maybe if it's a girl, and then it's like, but there's like Vin Diesel. I feel like that would be confusing.
That
Vin,
happened on our show.
Short for Vincent.
My favorite fantasy book name for a girl was from Name of the Wind. I was gonna be like, what about Devi from The Name of the Wind? Like, there's something about her like character and name that I really like a lot. But we didn't have a girl, so it didn't come up. Okay, right. Chapter 72, Selfish Reasons. And if you'll remember, we are in the middle of a letter, which now that we're finishing the letter this time, I will go ahead and give you guys the additional information that, yes, in the original, or in the last book, I should say, we saw a letter that was from Hoyd to his good friend Frost, the dragon, who we met briefly when we read that really short piece of The Traveler.
That was ages
Wait,
ago.
so he really is a dragon,
Yes.
and he's a space dragon.
I don't know that he hangs out in space, but
Well, if he's going from planet to planet, he's a space dragon. Come on, don't ruin my epiphany that I was right about space dragons.
so the first letter was from Hoyd to Frost saying, "Hey, help me stop Odium." And this letter is from Frost back to Hoyd in response saying, "No," essentially is what we get to. But we'll get into a little more detail as we get to it in this episode. But I wanted to start out there with this is a good, because I don't know that we ever hear in the story specifically an explanation of these letters. So I could give you that.
Okay.
He says here, "I suspect that he is more of a force than an individual now." We're talking about Race and Odium. "Despite your insistence to the contrary, the force is contained and an equilibrium is reached." So he's
awful lot like, oh yeah, like ruin is contained. He has equilibrium with preservation. Look how that fucking turned out.
I mean, in the end, I guess it turned out okay after most of the planet died.
Well,
Yeah, like it took a lot to get there.
Yeah.
And did it?
Well, okay, long term, maybe not. We still haven't
Yeah.
seen for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, harmony may not stay so harmonious. Which, by the way, you'd think that these powers could equally balance themselves out, but I guess because the powers here's my big weird theory right off. Here we go.
Oh, yeah,
right?
buckle in.
Right, buckle in. Okay. Look, we don't know much about Adonalsium, right? But we do know that these 16 shard powers were contained within him, or it, or they, whatever, essentially possibly in an equilibrium sort of state, right? Now you're introducing these powers into beings which seem to have sentience, consciousness, but they're not the original holders of said power. These powers being contained in a vessel that has a mind of its own and not originally developed to hold said power are corruptible, right? So like I don't think the point I'm trying to make here is I don't think any of these powers are meant to be in the bodies that they're currently in. And because of that, there's no way that they can stay in any type of equilibrium or that they can be completely 100% controlled, because these people are, they're people. They existed as people before obtaining these shard powers.
Mortals holding the power of gods.
Right. Or a single god, Adonalsium. If he is a giant, all hail the giant space dragon Adonalsium, as I assume him to be. So there's that, right? Adonalsium having the 16 powers. We don't know why they decided that Adonalsium didn't need all these 16 powers. Maybe he was a giant space dragon tyrant, destroying worlds, eating them like Galactus. That would be pretty interesting.
Apparently he
That
made
would be
this
cool.
one, so
Yeah.
Imagine, like, they could have also just been a bunch of greedy fuckers.
Yeah, could be. So, maybe Hoyd is trying to get said 16 powers to become a space dragon of benevolence. But who knows?
Man,
Anyway.
Given what we know about Hoyd, I don't know. That's who you want as a benevolent space god. He's just like insulting people all the time.
Well, I don't know.
Playing tricks and making fun of them.
Seems fun. Seems like a good time.
Also, it depends on the planet. Like, he's a royal con artist on Scadrial, and he punches Kelsier a few times, but
True.
the people he pays out on Rosha seem to be the ones who really deserve it, and he's good to the good guys.
Also true. Yeah. Okay. Chapter. How long? We've been recording for 40 minutes. We haven't actually started the chapter yet. So last time we ended with Shallan summoning her Shardblade and being like, "Here, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this." And Kaladin's like, "Wait." And so this is where Kaladin is just like staring at like, "Holy shit, Shallan has a Shardblade. What the hell?" And he says, "How?" And she goes, "It's not important." He's like, "I think it is important." And she's like, "Not now. Look, just take the thing." Also, interesting
they are both
note.
right.
he can touch it and there's no screaming sound. And he's like, oh man, was that screaming about my bond with Syl and now that's gone? That's upsetting. And he also determines that she couldn't be a Radiant, even if he'd suspected that, because if she was, she would probably hate these shard blades as much as he does. So interesting.
Once again, Kaladin, not everybody is like you.
And not every Spren is like Syl.
True. And I love the fact that he's going to take a moment out here in this horror show to be like, you're not supposed to let other people borrow your blade, right? It's like by tradition, only the kings and the high princes can do that. And she's like, seriously? Just take the damn
kill
sword.
The crab.
Yeah. And so he wants to lead it away while she runs to the war camp. And she's like, no, I need you to lead it the other way because I got to get my satchel. It's real important. It's like, okay, fine. And we get a quote unquote fight between Kaladin and the Chasm Fiend. It's more Kaladin dodges and drops the blade and barely hurts the Chasm Fiend at all for the most part.
Honestly, a one-on-one between a dude with a sword he's not used to using and a giant crab monster, probably about how that sort of thing would go.
Yeah, I mean, I think he does pretty well.
Yeah,
and
he doesn't die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the last time we saw somebody fight one of these, was it all the way back in Way of Kings? And it took Dalinar and Sadeas and Adolin and Elokar all working together to take it down.
They were all plated too.
And they all had plate, yeah.
Yeah, Kaladin's better than everybody. We get it.
At one point, the Chasm Fiend grabs his leg and he slashes at its face and it drops him. And he can't feel his leg. He's like, oh shit, it bit my leg off, didn't it? And he looks down. He's like, okay, no, just the leg's hurt, but it's still there. Good deal. All right. He notes that this sword glows. And he's like, I've never seen a shard blade do that, but I've never seen a shard blade at night. So maybe that's just how that works. And he gets one really good shot in when he gets under the thing and stabs up into it, but not like a kill shot. It's the thing's real pissed off now.
He's just like, this worked for Sam against Shelob. Ah, crap.
That's true. Shelob impales herself on the sword. That's
Yep.
And then there's Shallan standing there being like, hey, over here. And he's like, what is she doing, idiot? And the Chasm Fiend goes after her and he's like, did she get away? He can't see. And then at one point he's scrabbling for the sword that he keeps dropping and he looks up and there's him. He's like, wait, what? There's a me that's twice as big as me. What the hell is this? And the Chasm Fiend hits it and it just turns into a puff of stormlight. And he's like, how did I do that?
I don't remember that being a power I had. And also, my powers don't work right now.
Yeah, this is all sorts of confusing.
So many questions.
And then he decides that there's only one way to do this. And the Chasm Fiend comes down to eat him. And he goes inside the mouth and pushes the sword up into the roof of its mouth, up into its brain. And then from Shallan's perspective, we see the Chasm Fiend just kind of fall over. And she thinks it fell on him. So she goes and she's like, I got to get him. She'd been hiding nearby. She created an illusion of darkness over herself so she could draw and make illusions. She needed to be close to the fighting for the illusions to work. Better if she'd been able to send them on pattern, but that was problematic because then she stopped in front of the thing and we don't finish that thought ever. And so she starts cutting into the Chasm Fiend after seeing his legs sticking out of the thing's mouth. And she's like, Kaladin? And then she hears, ow. Which, fair.
It's a bit Looney Tunes.
It is, 100%. And she's trying to cut into the thing's head without, cutting Kaladin. He's like, this is kind of uncomfortable. She's like, you're alive. Stop complaining. It smells awful in here, almost as bad as you do. Oh, get back into the banter, even when you're inside a Chasm Fiend mouth.
Wait, can you even breathe in there? Is this a really good use of your air? Worth for me.
Worth it, as he dies. And so they've defeated the Chasm Fiend, but it's 2 hours until the high storm, if that. And Shallan's like, oh shit, we beat it and we're still gonna die, aren't we? He's like, yeah, seems unfair.
It's about how my life goes.
You know where I thought they were going after this? It's we killed the Chasm Fiend, but the storm is coming. What I thought was going to happen was I thought they were going to cut the body out of the carapace and use the carapace as a boat.
Ah, yeah, real Tauntaun-esque.
Cut some surfboards. I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Kaladin's like, I told you.
Yeah, he's like, I've been there, I know.
Yeah, it's just really stinky.
And Kaladin realizes, wait a second, do you have a shard blade? She's like, yeah, so I can't cut a wall of water. It's like, no, but you can cut stone. And they figure out she can climb up to above the water line on the chasms and cut them a place to hide from the storm. Which, when you think about it, and this it is a problem that she runs into, is trying to climb a wall and also use a 6-foot long sword. Not going to be easy. Like that is awkward as hell. And she discovers this when she tries to cut handholds for herself while she's climbing up. And she's like, geez, I need this thing to be smaller. And then suddenly the shard blade shrinks down to the size of a big knife. And she thinks, thank you. And just, so there's something.
Do that.
Yeah, there's something we've never seen once.
Yeah.
The Shard Blade's like Green Lantern ring. You can make them whatever you want.
That would
Well,
be nice.
maybe it's specific to her power somehow, because her power is all about like I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out.
It's weird.
It's
There's
definitely not
something-
normal.
Has no other shard blade bearer ever needed to shrink their sword down? Maybe they're so big because people just kept thinking, I wish my sword was bigger, and they've gradually gotten bigger.
They probably
It's
just
like-
think like it can't change. It's like, oh, we got the thing. I got the thing, and this is what it is. And they've never once been in a position they've needed to go, man, I really wish I had a pocket knife instead.
Yeah, because they only ever use them in duels or whatever, fighting. They're never
It
like,
would be hilarious if she just comes back and she's like, oh, did you guys not know you could do this? And Edelyn's like jaw dropping open.
She just turns into a fucking bow and arrow, like fires it up, and they climb a shard rope up to the top.
That would be useful. Yeah, why don't we try that? Okay, so she manages to get up there and cut out a little cubby, and Calvin's just on the ground like, you're doing great, keep it up. Like, when did you get so peppy? Ever since I assumed I was dead and then suddenly I wasn't. And she has a kind of fun line. She's like, remind me to try and kill you once in a while. If I succeed, it will make me feel better. And if I fail, it will make you feel better. Everybody wins.
Yeah, he's gotten some pep, that's for sure.
And so when she finally successfully cuts out this little thing, she's like, okay, so I think we can both fit in here. And he doesn't say anything. And she's like, you are coming in the hole I just dug, right? He's like, look, I can't even walk, let alone climb. And she's like, oh, hell no, you're getting in this hole. And so she has to like badger him and drag him and kind of up the wall. And because he can't climb, his leg is like no good. It won't even support his weight at this point. So, but somehow they both make it into the hole. And the chapter ends just as the storm wall hits and she's trying to pull him up into the thing.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that's when we have chapter 73, 1,000 Scurrying Creatures. And it is our last Shallan flashback of this part. It's only been a year since Shallan's father died, apparently, because this is the 1 year ago flashback. So Balat is getting ready to flee with his girlfriend. They have not managed to find Hellerin, which was the plan. If you recall, they were going to find Hellerin and he was going to help them escape, along with their father's wife. But they haven't found him, so Balat is going to run. He's going to take his girl, and they're like, yeah, figure out something to do with our stepmom. I don't know. We can't take her. And at the same time,
they know it won't matter in just a minute.
No, not even a little. At the same time, they're like, isn't it weird that we're suddenly all like so rich? And Balat's like, whatever, as long as it keeps father happy, I don't care. And then Shallan thinks, well, the problem is father's not happy. No, the more wealthy we get, the like darker he seems to get. And then one of their brothers comes in and lets them know, hey, your girlfriend's here. It's like, wait, what? Yeah, apparently dad called for her. And Balat is like, oh, hell no. Like, this is where he draws the line. Like, dad's going to do something to his girl? No, not going to let that happen. And he storms off. And Shallan has this feeling of panic. And then she thinks this had been coming. She'd known this had been coming. They tried to hide. They tried to flee. Of course that wouldn't work. It hadn't worked with Mother either. So whatever that means.
So the obvious explanation is mummy tried to leave evil daddy and didn't get away. But the funnier idea is like daddy was trying to run away from mummy.
Mom is even more hardcore than dad. That would be a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
And so we walk in on Balat like yelling at his father, I love her. You shouldn't have done this. And his father's like, you're a child, a foolish child with no regard for your house. You think I don't know about your plan to leave? And while this is going on, Shallan's like, hey, what's that blocking the door over there to the kitchens? And when as she goes over to look, her father's like, oh, do you know Hellerin's dead? That's why you can't find him. I didn't even have to do it. He died on some battlefield in Alethkar, idiot. How did you find out I was leaving? Who told you? And that's when Shallan finds their stepmother's body, dead from several blows to the head. He'd killed her recently. He'd found out about the plan, sent for Aelita, and waited for her to arrive, and then killed his wife.
And she deserved better.
Yeah. And Shallan thinks, so it has come to this. The lie becomes the truth. Then she gets some wine for her father. And Balat's like, Malise, she broke down and told you, didn't she? Damn it, we shouldn't have trusted her. And his father's like, yes, she talked eventually. So like that makes it sound like he didn't know the plan when he started like torturing her, or I don't know. Like it's the way he says that makes me wonder what the hell was going on.
I assume that's just he suspected something was up, and from the way she was acting, he knew she knew what it was, and so it's like, well, I'm just going to beat the shit out of you until you tell me what the fuck's going on.
Good point. That could have been it. And Blot draws his sword, and the dad's like, finally, you show a hint of a backbone. And there's a clash, but apparently Blot not great with a sword, and kind of loses this little fight real quick. And the father's like, I've always despised you, the coward. Elloren was noble. He had passion. You crawl around whining and complaining. And Shallan's like giving her dad some wine. Like, hey, Dad, he's down. You won. Here, have some wine. I always wanted sons, and I got 4, all worthless.
It's not just wine in that cup.
And so he gulps the wine down in one go. And as he's drinking his wine, Blot like grabs his sword and like pushes himself up on one knee and stabs at his father. And it goes through his coat and makes a clang, which makes me think of the first episode of the 80s Ninja Turtles cartoon when they first fight like a foot soldier. It's like, did you clang? Did you just say clang? After like, oh, these guys are robots. Awesome.
I don't know how many decades it's been since I watched that show.
Classic show.
It's good stuff.
His dad is cut slightly, and he's just like, that's the best you have? 15 years of sword training, and that's the best you can do. Hit me. And Balat just starts to cry and drops his sword, and his father's like, useless, and throws down his sword and grabs the fireplace poker and just starts beating the shit out of his son. Why can't you do anything right? And then he, like, Aelita, the girlfriend, goes over to, like, protect her boyfriend maybe, or cry over him or whatever. And the father looks at her, and Shallan's thinking there's murder in his eyes. He's going to kill her. And as he raises the poker again, suddenly it slips out of his hand, and he looks at his hand, confused, and then falls down. And Shallan is like, has this very calm, cold demeanor as she's like taking charge, like, Aelita, bind his wounds, use his shirt.
Oh, wait. You gotta go back. The reason the chapter title is the chapter title. It's because the rain on the roof sounds like 1,000 scurrying creatures.
Yeah.
Look, I'll be honest. Some of Brandon's chapter titles in this series have been good. Some of them have been kind of air. This is the biggest cop out on a chapter title he has put in yet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. It does just, it's kind of out of nowhere, and it pops up for a second and is gone. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's why he doesn't do chapter titles in most of his books.
Maybe he writes the
like,
chapter first, and he comes back and he's like, what's interesting in here that I could call it?
Yeah, my editor picks all the chapter titles. I don't know.
And so everyone's looking, and the brother's like, what happened? Like, did Blot actually manage to kill him? And Shallan's like, you gave me something a few years ago. I kept it. You said it grows more potent over time. And Wickham is like, Stormfather, the Blackbane? And she's like, yeah, in his wine. Melissa's dead by the kitchen. He went too far. And Wickham just can't like comprehend it. He just he's like, you killed him. You killed him. She's like, yeah. And I don't know why it's funny to me, but there's the note that like Aelita goes to fetch some wine, unpoisoned, of course, for Balat. He gets the good stuff. And then while she's looking over here, Jushu has started to go through their father's pockets. And Wickham's like, what, really? You're already going through the dead guy's pockets? He's like, what's this? And he pulls out the soul caster. And they're like, holy crap, Jushu says, isn't that blasphemy? Don't these belong to the king to be only used by the Ardents? And then father's leg twitches. And Jushu's like, it's Voidbringers. They're inside him. But no, it's the poison wasn't good enough. I don't know if she didn't use enough, or apparently it's been aging for years. And Kaladin seemed to think that like a few leaves he had that was aged for like a couple months would kill him. So I don't know why it didn't kill her dad.
Dramatic effect.
Yeah. It just paralyzed him, and now he's waking. And Shallan's like, well, we need to finish the job then. And none of her brothers are on board with this. The twins, Jushu and Wickham, are just like shaking their heads, and Balat is like half conscious at this point, so he can't do it. And she's like, oh, okay then. And she takes off the necklace that he gave her, made of aluminum, if you recall, and wraps it around his neck and uses a fork that fell on the floor to twist it tight, and sings the lullaby that he sang to her back in, I think, the first flashback that we had in this book. And he's staring at her like she sees this betrayed look in his eyes as he dies. And it's a real dark moment. And the the lullaby takes on a very creepy tone being used in this situation. But that is the end of that. And for all I know, that may be the last flashback in the book. I don't recall if there's flashbacks in part 5. There were no flashbacks except for maybe the very end in part 5 of Way of Kings. So that may be the case again. I don't recall.
Like there's still so much to see in her flashbacks now that we don't know where the blade came from. We need to see something of Luesh, and I assume we'll probably see the Ghost Bloods there. Like I feel like that's a lot to cover in one flashback. If that was all we got.
They didn't before Shallan leaves to like go find Yasna. We didn't know about the Ghost Bloods, I don't think, or she didn't rather.
Well, she didn't know that they were the Ghost Bloods, but she knew that people were coming for the Soulcaster back.
No, actually, at first she didn't. It was when she was with Yasna that her brothers sent a message like, "Hey, these guys showed up," and they implied that they knew that we had this thing and they want it back. Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Because at first the plan was just like swap them out so that we can make money and we won't get killed by our creditors.
Oh man, it's been so long since we read that bit. I'd forgotten completely.
I know, right? It's this is the 26th episode of this book that we've done. So yeah, it's been a long road.
Yeah.
It's been a long road.
Yeah, I've been watching Star Trek Enterprise lately, so yeah.
I tried to watch that. I think I got through like the first season. Nah.
I realized at some point a couple of weeks ago that there's a lot of Star Trek that I had not watched. I'd watched like periodically when Enterprise was on, I watched that. I've never watched Discovery. I've never seen like the original Star Trek the animated series or anything like that. So I found a cool chronological like in-universe chronological order to watch all of Star Trek in, and I started working on it. So I am in the 4th and final season of Enterprise now, and I think it goes to Discovery or something after that. So I decided, I said if I'm going to do it, I'm going to just do it, the whole thing.
Look at you.
But okay, sorry. It's chapter 74, Striding the Storm. Frost says, "You, however, have never been a force for equilibrium. You tow chaos behind you like a corpse dragged by one leg through the snow. Please hearken." Yeah, right. "Please hearken to my plea. Leave that place and join me in my oath of non-intervention." So this is a good moment to bring up something that people have been wanting me to tell you guys for a while, and I gave you part of it before. But you remember we talked about. Okay, let's go back. In the first letter that Hoyt sends to Frost, he says that like your friends from the 17th Shard are looking for me, and I've like put them on a false trail or something like that. So what we know from things that Brandon has said is that the 17th Shard is an organization, and either Frost is, I don't know if he's like in charge of it or if he's like high up in it or something, but the implication is that his goal or here of non-intervention may extend to like the activities of the 17th Shard. That maybe they work for him or something like that, but that's like the origin of the 17th Shard is tied in with him somehow. And so that group is separate from the other groups that we know about, and they may be all about this idea of like not interfering in what's going on the worlds and with these gods.
Huh. So how do they come in contact with Frost then? It's like we know those guys who are in the 17th Shard.
Yep. We know all 3 of them.
And I am still baffled that Jaymee is one of them and he's not following the Kelsier teachings.
Mm-hmm. He was so dedicated to the Church of the Survivor.
Yeah. He was like the survivor pope for a while.
Yep. I wonder how you go from that to leaving the planet.
Well, not only leaving the planet, but like if because we assumed like that was what made us think Kelsier was in charge of that group and they were the Ghost Bloods, is because it's Jaymee. Obviously, Jamee's going to follow Kelsier. So why has he left Kelsier's teachings if indeed he has? I don't know. Yeah, so many questions, no answers.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah, at first you guys were thinking they were Ghost Bloods, and there were so many people in the Discord and emails like, well, when are you going to tell them? Tell them about this. I'm tired of them theorizing that this is Ghost Blood stuff. And so I gave you guys a little bit about the 17th Shard being a different group, but I waited until we got here where he specifically talks about his oath of non-intervention before pointing out that we've already been given a connection between the 17th Shard and this guy, the letter writer.
I also like how they're like, I don't want to hear their theories that are obviously wrong.
Most of your theories are obviously wrong. Like, what are you going to...
That's
the whole fun part.
Yeah. I will say, though, now that you've pointed this out, Galadon, 100% see that guy just being on the non-intervention side.
Yeah.
Like, that makes total sense to me.
Bayon is kind of a question mark. Like, if you guys remember in White Sand, like, he was hired to like as a spy working for Chris to like kill somebody or other, and he did his job, and then he's like, well, I was also hired to be your bodyguard, and even though that was just part of the cover, I'm still going to do that job too. Like,
and well, he's also an interesting case because we know Chris as well, like goes off planet quite a bit. So,
True.
like, do they ever catch up and trade world stories?
That's a good question. In fact, I think based on what we read in the Taldane essay, like I don't think she can get home right now. Like there was a thing where she talks about like how unfortunately for me, autonomy doesn't allow like traveling between the worlds currently. But okay,
fucking autonomy.
What a jerk, right?
Yep.
Kaladin manages to make it in the cubby. Boulders start crashing, but they get in there in time to avoid the brunt of the high storm. And also they're on the like side that faces away from where the storm comes from, so you don't get like the most force of it, because by the time it gets to you, it's moving away. So that's good too. And it's dark, and he's like, "What? Didn't you have a sphere?" And she's like, "Yeah, it must have dropped it when I grabbed you." And he's like, "But I didn't." I assume he's about to say, "I didn't see a sphere falling or whatever." But they get distracted by the thunder, and I assume that what was actually happening is like pulling him in here was more work than her muscles could do, so she needed some stormlight for that. The water's going up, and it actually ends up getting in their cubby a little bit, but not enough to hurt them, so it worked out. And she's like, that is one of the most surreal things I've ever seen. He's like, yeah, storms are weird. You speak from experience? Oh yeah, Sadius hung me out in one. I was supposed to die.
I've been through some shit.
Yeah, you know how it is, right? And I'm trying to see, it's right around here that we talk about the strange stuff that they're seeing. He swore he saw an enormous figure walking up there, a glowing inhuman form followed by another, alien and sleek, striding the storm leg after leg until the glow passed. So what the hell was that?
Parshendi?
Maybe? Just the way he describes it, an enormous walking figure, leg after leg, is a weird terminology unless there's like more than 2 legs.
We joked about Stormfather having like a whole family of other Spren, like Wind Brother and something. That maybe there's a family reunion happening right now.
There you go. And she's like, I need you to tell me like something to distract me from what's going on out there. And so Kaladin gives her his story, all the stuff that we saw in the flashbacks and the book last time. He throws it all out there for her. Mentions Tavlakiv, and she's like, oh, hey, I know that guy. What a fun story this is. And I like to note that like he's never told this before, because who would he have told? Like Bridge 4 went through most of it with him, and that's the only people he's close enough to like want to tell this story. Also, there's a note that I feel like is a little bit mean, where he's like, he expected her to ask questions, but she didn't ask a single one. She apparently did know how to be quiet. I'm like, dude, really?
The thing that actually threw me was, oh yeah, he mentions Crazy Vaclav, and she's just like, oh, I know that guy. But there's no similar reaction for, and Gaz was on my back for months, and she's like, my Gaz?
Well, no, she knows that he knows Gaz because they ran into each other.
I guess, but yeah, it just seems weird that it didn't get mentioned at all. Well, don't get me wrong, I'm grateful that Gaz wasn't mentioned. But it was I did think it was kind of odd that he wasn't.
I mean, I thought more should have come out about Amaram when he talks about like Amaram and his shard blade. That was like the first thing he talked about, and I figured she would get in at that point and be like, oh, that was my brother or something, you know?
Does seem convenient that he kind of just skips over, oh yeah, I killed him, considering that was really the crux of it. It was meant to be his shard blade because he killed the bearer. Like, how did he skip that detail?
Well, I agree that it seemed convenient, but I feel like it's justified enough. Like, he says he discovered after being made a slave and a bunch of beatings that, like, talking about that kind of thing didn't go well for you. And so he'd gotten into the habit of describing what happened without the specifics of it.
Okay.
And so I agree that at first it's like, how do you miss that? And then he explains it in a way that I'm like, okay, that's good enough, I guess, for me. And after he's done telling his story, he expects something like questions now or something. And she just starts on her own story. I killed my father. And he's like, oh, wait, what? And she goes and tells the whole story that we've just seen with her. And this is what we talked about before. Like, Kaladin thinks things have been bad for him, but like, damn. And he actually thinks the same thing here. He's like, I thought I had it bad, but I didn't appreciate how amazing, like, I had a great, loving family. What if, like, if I had been in that situation that she was in, what if I had been the one required to, like, bring the light to my family instead of living off of Tien's light? And he thinks, why is she not broken? And then when she gets to the part about her brother, he's like, oh, crap, I killed him, didn't I? The one that she liked. Oh, shit. Did I mention that part? No, I don't think I did. And when she mentions, like, what she did in the flashback that we just read, he's like, holy crap, this woman is stronger than I've ever been. So we've got some like admiration in here for maybe the first time in a long time that he feels admiration for a Light Eyes specifically. Even he like respects Dalinar, but I don't know that we've ever seen him like admire him in that way, where it's like, this is a person better than I've ever been. So I think that's actually kind of a big thing for Kaladin. And then she's like, and so we decided that I'd find Yasna because she had a soulcaster. And he's like, oh, so you want to see if she'd fix yours? No.
We never thought of that.
Never even considered it. I was going to go and rob her. And he's like, so you'd never left your family's lands before. Yeah. And you went to rob one of the smartest women in the world. Yeah. Anyway, she found out, and like she kind of skips over very deftly some important details here also. Where it's like, so yeah, she found out, but I intrigued her, so she brought me on as her ward and wants me to marry her cousin. And she's like, huh, that's pretty generous for someone that you were going to rob. To be fair, did rob. Just, she may not have mentioned that part.
I gave it back.
Yeah, when I was about to die, if I didn't, then I went ahead and fixed that. Sorry, I'm still looking for the thing about like the spren that looked red, or I don't remember if we've passed it or if it was after this. We're 17,000. Oh, okay, yes. I think it was right when they first started telling their stories, where he sees a strange spren zipping past, red and violet and reminiscent of lightning. Was that what Syl had seen?
Get the feeling we're going to see the results of that in one of these interludes.
Maybe. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be, when we reach the end here, I'm going to be able to give you guys the names of the interludes. So, there's that.
Ooh.
But just as they're getting into this conversation, suddenly we have that moment of stillness in the middle of the storm again with the giant face in the sky. And he's like, hey, Stormfather, what up? And his first question is, she's one of them, huh? Like one of those Knights Radiance or Surgebinder or whatever? That's what happened when I was fighting the Chasm Fiend. That's how we survived. And the Stormfather just rumbles like he doesn't care. And then Cal's like, hey, Syl, what happened to her? What did I do? And Stormfather's like, you killed her. And Cal's like, no. It happened as it once did. Men cannot be trusted, child of Tanavast. You have taken her from me, my beloved one. And Cal's like, how can I fix it?
Sorry, I didn't know Syl was like the favorite child.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I guess honor spren. I don't know. Also,
yeah,
who's Tanavast?
We've heard that before, haven't we?
Tanavast?
Have we heard Tanavast before? Let's find out. The name comes up in the letter, in part of the letter we were just reading. Whether this was Tanavast's design or not, millennia have passed without Race taking the life of another of the 16.
Okay.
I can't remember if we talked about it, or if it's just something I've turned in my head since. But I got the feeling Tanavast was honor, and in dying, honor bound odium to the planet. Maybe.
So the Stormfather is not honor?
Well, Syl is an honor spren, and Stormfather called her his beloved. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the Stormfather just called Kaladin Child of Honor, and now he calls him Child of Tanavast, so...
Oh, you're right. He calls him both of those things. That does make it sound like they're the same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And Kaladin's like, how do I fix it? What can I do? And he's like, it can't be fixed. She is broken. You are like the ones who came before, the ones who killed so many of those I love. Farewell, son of honor. You will not ride my winds again. And then it's gone. And Shallan's like, Kelleck's breath, what was that? And he's like, oh, you saw the face too? Yeah. He's like, that was the Stormfather. You know how it is. He's like, we're all buddies. It's fine.
Yeah, he's a good dude, He hangs out with me sometimes.
She goes, that was amazing. I need to draw it. Which is a very Shallan response, I feel like.
Sure.
But her she's like, oh, my drawings. The satchel is waterproof, but I don't know if it's high storm proof.
It's still water. There's just more of it.
Yeah. And he's thinking about Syl, like, did I really kill her? Oh, man. And eventually the flood goes away, and he looks over, and she's fallen asleep. And he's like, you must be the only person to ever fall asleep while outside in a high storm. And then he falls asleep also. So, and then we get a drawing of a Chasm Fiend, which is, and I like, there's even a little person for scale and a chull, so you can see what these are like in comparison. And you get like a very detailed multi-drawing look at the mouth, which is kind of a little bit alienish. And the note is, are these the same spren as those I saw with the sky eels in Kharbran? What is the connection? So, all right. Chapter 75, the last chapter of part 4, and the letter ends, the Cosmere itself may depend upon our restraint. And you guys will recall, before we went into our break, I told you guys about the previous use of True Glory. I will read again real quick because this chapter is True Glory. They come from the pit, 2 dead men, a heart in their hands, and I know that I have seen true glory. Which I think Joe predicted almost dead on what we end up with here.
Woot.
I mean, Shalon's not a man, but I guess, generally speaking, that they
She's a woman.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. But we start out with Amaram and Dalinar, and Amaram is trying to convince him to make peace with Sadeas. He does not understand that this is a thing that's not going to happen. And I love that he's like, look, yes, he betrayed you. Yes, he'll probably betray you again, but this is more important than that. And I'm like, that you're not really selling it, my man.
Yeah, more important than him killing me. Okay. Interesting.
And there's some horns blowing. A chasm fiend has been spotted, but it's too far away. Dalinar says we're not going to get distracted by that. There's also a real weird note in here. Amaram says, Dalinar, will you talk to him? And Dalinar thinks, careful. Don't make any judgments just yet. This had to be done with precision. He looks at Navani, who's eyeing him, and he thinks he'd shared his plans regarding Amaram with her. So there's a plan of some kind?
What?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. Makes me think maybe Adolin got to his dad and was like, nah, I trust that Kaladin guy. He says Amaram's no good.
Could be. But what would the plan be? Why wouldn't you just be like, no, we're not going to hang out anymore? Amaram's like, Sadeas
Wit is my friend now, and you can't be around Wit.
Yeah, the plan is to just have Wit hang around all the time, and that'll chase Amaram away real quick. But Amaram says, Sadeas won't like a gem heart being left unharvested. He'll send troops for it. And Dalinar's like, Sadeas is going to do whatever he wants regardless of what we do. So, and then they get into a whole thing because Amaram's like, you gave me this position. How am I supposed to get anyone to listen to me if you won't even listen to me? And Dalinar's like,
bitch.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, man. Eventually, you're going to have to give away authority and let it stay given, Dalinar. You can't hold it all pretending you aren't in charge, but then ignore orders and advice as if you were. And Dalinar realizes the truth of that and is just like, I'm gonna dance right around that. What about that thing I assigned you?
I'm gonna be whatever I want to do for a minute. And what about that other thing?
And Aaron goes, Borden, who, if you remember, was the guy who took him into the place to see Talon in the monastery, whatever it was called. He's like, look, his story seems to check out. I think the thing about the madman having a shard blade was just raving. It's ridiculous to think he could have had one.
Liar!
And then a messenger girl comes, and she's like, Bright Lord, the plateau. And Dalinar's like, yeah, I guess Sadeas is sending people. No, sir, not. I mean, he came out of the chasms. And Dalinar's like, wait, who? Stormblessed. And I love that it cuts to Dalinar ran the entire way. That would be a hell of a bit of news to get, for sure. And he gets there to the triage pavilion, and there's a sea of men in cobalt uniforms crowding around. And a surgeon being like, get back, give me room in here. And here's Kaladin. He's got his coat off and wrapped around something that's tied up with a vine. And he sees Dalinar and pushes himself to his feet to salute. And Dalinar's like, dude, don't. But he does it anyway. And Dalinar thinks this is the most tired salute I've ever seen in my life. And Dalinar says, you fell into a chasm. And Kaladin's like, yeah, but I fell face first. And fortunately, I'm particularly hard-headed. Dalinar's like, but yeah, I don't know how I survived. We think Spren were involved somehow. Anyway, hiked back through the chasms. Had a duty to see to. One future daughter-in-law. Delivered safe and sound. And that Dalinar sees Shalon for the first time. Totally didn't even notice her because a little bit distracted.
Yeah, no one mentioned her.
I like how. Yeah, I was about to say. I like how they're like, he climbed out. They were like, yeah, he and Shalon.
But Stormblessed. He's already got this mythical
betrothed.
Status. He had a mythical status even in Sadeas' army because he was hung out to die in the High Storm and didn't. So I feel like since we're in Kaladin's perspective so much, we may not see it. But I think that he carries a weird status among the people in the army where they all have an admiration.
Yeah, look, we get that. And I think Joe and I are on the same page here. We're not trying to dismiss Kaladin's mythical status. We're just the fact that no one even thought to even passingly mention Adolin's betrothed came with him.
Right. That message could have been Stormblessed is back. And then as they're running, he's all like, also Adolin's betrothed's there too.
Yeah. Maybe she tried to tell him that, and Dalinar was just already running. And Dalinar's like, but there was a high storm. And Kaladin's like, yeah, we really wanted to get back before that. Ran into some trouble. He's like, yeah, you know how people said there was a chasm fiend prowling around nearby? And Talon's like, yeah. And Kaladin just like unveils what's in his coat, which is like a giant green gem heart.
I took care of that for you too, boss.
Yep,
Anything
took
else
Uh,
care
you
of
need?
Dalinar was just like, look, you're throwing a lot at me right now.
Dalinor's like, you're just fucking with me, right? Like this is.
I mean, Kaladin is just like, he just wants to be so dramatic in this moment, and it absolutely works. And then Shallan has to be like, oh, don't be melodramatic. We found the thing already dead, survived the high storm by climbing up on its back and getting into like a crack. We can only get the gem heart out because the thing was already half rotted. And Kaladin looks at her and looks back and goes like, yeah,
Yes.
that's what happened.
That's what happened. And I like in this moment that Dalinar knows they're lying, so he believes that Kaladin killed a chasm.
Yep, 100%. And he can't say anything. Like, he can't be like, you're lying. Like, how's he gonna prove that?
Yeah, you're lying. You killed it. And then he'd be like,
Admit it.
okay. Admit it. You killed that chasm fiend with your own hands. I mean, all right. Yeah, you caught me.
Caught the tater.
But do you still have my son's helmet wrapped around your fist?
And that might work.
Just keeps punching it.
And then apparently Amaram stayed behind to escort Navani, and they arrive at this point in the conversation. And Navani sees Shallan, and she runs over and starts like fussing over her. And Dalinar's like, finally, the mother axe hound emerges. Shallan is not an outsider anymore. She's part of Navani's clutch. So yeah, it's kind of a sweet little moment there. Kaladin notes, oh, you're getting ready for your expedition. And Dalinar's like, well, yeah, you don't need to worry about that. You can't guard me in your current state. He's like, no, Shallan found something out there. You got to talk to her before you go. And Dalinar's like, your men waited for you. Skipped meals, pulled triple shifts. I have to think they would have sat out there at the head of the chasms through the high storm if I hadn't intervened. And Kaladin's like, yeah, they're good men. Like, no, there's something else. They knew you'd return. What did they know about you that I don't know? And here's the moment where Kaladin has never said anything, and Dalinar finally kind of figures it out. He's like, you're what I've been looking for. Except the Kaladin's not anymore.
Yeah, and he has to kind of be like, maybe at one time I was, not anymore. Sorry.
And I love that after hearing that response, he doesn't latch on to the at one time I was. Like, I feel like that's something I would want explanation of. Dalinar's just like, okay, maybe not. Give him anything he wants or needs. This man is a hero. Again. And then he looks around like, where'd Amaram go?
What? You know the history between Amaram and Kaladin. Why the fuck would you wonder this? Of course Amaram's gonna get the fuck out of Dodge.
He's like, that guy survived again? God damn it. I thought I was in the clear.
Yeah, he thought he was good.
Oh, this guy. Why the hell did I make that guy a slave?
Well, and in addition to that, Amaram has now he saw Kaladin kill that original shard bearer back in the day, right? He saw Kaladin get into the ring with Adolin and take down like 4 shard bearers. So he may not be confident he could take Kaladin in a fight if it came to that.
Yeah, he's like, this is the most impressive guy I've ever met, and I made him a slave and my enemy. Why did I do that?
I mean, well, let's also add to this litter. Let's assume that Amaram has watched everything that has just been said, and he's watched Kaladin pull out the gem heart. And if he comes to the same conclusion Dalinar did, that like Kaladin is lying about not killing it, he's just like, fuck, and this dude just killed a chasm fiend. I'm out of here. Fuck.
Yeah, I'm gone.
It's like, is there anything this guy can't kill?
We cut to an hour later. Shallan has had a bath. It was glorious. But while she was doing that, she sent Pattern to spy on Dalinar and Navani. And Dalinar is like, we need to take her on this journey with us to flesh out this map. She's drawn a better map than any of our people have done in like 4 years out here. And Navani's like, no, you cannot take her back out there. Are you crazy? And then things get a little private. And Shallan or Pattern's like, yeah, they started making some interesting noises. I can reproduce those if you want. And Shallan's like, nope, I'm good.
I've also learned this thing called scratch guitar. Wow.
Oh, I hope Pattern doesn't learn that. What if Shallan is just walking along, living her everyday life, and Pattern is like sound effects guy? That would.
Oh, can you imagine? So she uses Patton to walk around, and Patton's making her own theme music.
Oh, that would be insufferable, honestly.
Yeah, not a great thing.
But we get some very interesting history from Pattern in this scene. There are no older cryptics who were alive back in the days of the Knights Radiant. None who experienced the bond. And she goes, wait, not a single one? Nope, all dead. I mean, death means something different to us than it does to you guys. We've tried to restore them. It doesn't work. Maybe if their knights still lived, something could be done. So I assume that's what Joe was kind of zeroing in on there.
Yeah, because, I mean, if the Stormfather says she's dead, but death means something different to them, then, you know.
Well, and if he says if their knight still lived, maybe something could be done. Well, I mean, Kaladin still lives. Maybe something could be done. We don't know what. But so we even find out that it's not just the cryptics. He says back then there were less Spren with minds, and the majority of several Spren peoples were all bonded. There were very few survivors. The one you call the Stormfather lived, some others. The rest, thousands of us, were killed when that thing happened that you call the Recreants. So I don't think we knew that. That's messed up. Not only did the Knights break their bonds and, you know, leave humanity on their own, but apparently in the process, thousands of Spren were killed. So,
yeah, I can see why they might not like peoples.
Right? Yeah, you know, genocide tends to have that effect. And Shallan's like, oh, no wonder you're so certain I'm going to kill you. And Pattern's like, yeah, it'll happen. You're going to betray your oaths, break my mind, leave me dead. But the opportunity is worth the cost.
That is what you do.
I mean, apparently Kaladin did it, is what we've been told. So it happens.
And Stormfather himself had to come out and just say, it's like, fuck's sake, man.
Yeah, you can honestly, if they're also certain that that's going to happen, I'm surprised you get any Spren bonding humans at this point. And then Adolin shows up, and she has this whole thing that she's worked out and prepared for when she runs into him. But he just comes up and hugs her, and then he even like kisses her, and she's like, "This is the most physically forward he's ever been. This is amazing." And apparently he was off visiting the other High Princes, delivering Father's final ultimatum: join us or be forever known as those who refuse to see the Vengeance Pact fulfilled. Father needed to distract me from, well, you. And she's like, I have pictures for you. I saw a chasm fiend. And he's like, yeah, a dead one, right? Oh, poor thing. Poor thing. Shallan, if you'd seen a live one, you'd have surely been killed. And she goes, almost surely. Oh, these two have been kind of fun together, this book. And he apologizes. He's like, I'm sorry, I ran for Father first. And she goes, no, you did the right thing. Well, I'm not going to let it happen again. Nothing like that. I'm going to protect you. We'll make it so you're never put in that kind of position again. She's like, no. Don't say stuff like that.
Her alarm bells go off. It's like, you're not my dad, bro. Stop.
You're not my dad, bro.
You need to know things about my family.
I won't be locked away again, Adolin. And he's like, wait, again? What? Not important. I appreciate the concern, and that's what matters. And then Dalinar comes in, and he has a request to make. And she's like, okay, but I want to make a request first. I need to go on your expedition. And Dalinar smiles, shooting a glance at Navani, like, gotcha. And Navani's like, one would think, considering your recent ordeal, you would wish for a time of shelter. And Adolin's like, you shouldn't say stuff like that, and she's kind of funny about that. And so Dalinar wants to bring her along, and he wants her to draw him a map, expand a map of the whole Shattered Plains. And she's like, yes, I can do that. But I need you to leave your parshmen behind. I can't explain why, but Yasna felt that they were dangerous. If you want my help, trust me on this one thing, leave them behind. And Navani's like, I mean, we don't really need them now that everything's packed. I guess the officers will have to put up their own tents, but Dalinar's like, all right, gather your things and send word to your uncle Sabariel. We're leaving within the hour without parchment. And that is the end of part 4.
Yeah. I wonder what Sabariel thought when they're like, yeah, she died. He's like, oh, that's a bummer. At least I don't gotta pay her.
What am I going to do with all of her slaves and like the guys working for her?
But sir, you've lost your niece. Did I? Oh shit, yeah.
Right. Niece. Yeah, I'm very sad.
Right. I'm gonna have to tell my sister, cousin, whatever.
Whoever she's the daughter of, I don't even know.
Do I even have any siblings?
I'm real confused.
But we're ready for predicaments. Let's move into predicaments, and we're going to read for next time the 3 interludes before part 5. So it's a nice little division here. Just the 3 interludes, and they're called Lan, Lhan, Eshonai, and back again, finally, Taravangian.
Oh,
So there's some stuff you can incorporate into your predicaments if you wish.
Really?
What do you guys think? Where are we going? What's going to happen next? We're moving into, after these interludes, the final part of the book. We are after this interlude episode, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more episodes, and we're done. So where are we going? What's going to happen?
Wow, Lan, don't know what that means. Ash and I, maybe we're gonna see some more transformations, some bad stuff with the Parshendi. Taravangian, yeah, dude, it's been a while. Maybe Seth's gonna kill him. That'd be pretty fun.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, maybe we'll see that. Where are we going? Well, things are gonna have to come to a head between the Parshendi and our heroes. I think that's on the horizon for this book, because it seems to me that the earlier writings in the book from the perspective of Navani are after that, right? So like that's gotta be coming up.
And so she probably lives through that if she's writing that. That's
right.
Also
yeah.
good.
Yeah, so I don't think she's dying. Yeah, if that's what you were getting at. I don't know what else we have time for in the book. I mean, I know these are large books, so like, do we have a time for an El Hokar assassination attempt? Do we have time for I really don't know what we have time for at this point with things launching. But I am hoping that Syl comes back. I'm gonna predict by the end of the book Syl comes back. How about that?
Okay.
That's a big predicament for me. Syl's coming back by the end of the book.
Okay. Fair.
Other than that, I don't know.
All right. I mean, you bring up one good point in that we are now 83% of the way through this book, so we got 17% left. I feel like we always at this point feel like there's no way that he can fit everything that I expect him to fit into the end of this book, and somehow he usually finds a way to do it. So it's hard to predict, like, what do we have time for? Just like you said, like it's hard to know. But I mean, presumably Moash and his buddies still planning on killing a king, right? So where does Kaladin fall on that now? And we've got this expedition. What comes of the expedition? Yeah, there's all sorts of things that could be in the end of this book, and hopefully will be.
Okay, so I'm trying to map out the part 5 of this book. So I think Dalinar will lead the expedition out on the plateaus. Bunch of the High Lords will follow. I think Sadeas will be one of them because he wants to be there. He thinks this is going to be a failure, and he wants to be there to try and show it to everyone who's there. So Sadeas will go with them. They will find the city, but it will be deserted, and Sadeas will try and use this to discredit Dalinar. But at this point, because they found the city, like everyone's like, Sadeas, shut the fuck up. While this is going on, Kaladin will have been left behind to recover on the Shattered Plains, and Elhokar will be back there as well. And then it's like Kaladin has to try and stop Moash and his boys from trying the assassination while Dalinar's off base. And in the midst of trying to stop them, they realize the city is deserted because all the Parshendi Stormform have left. They've ducked around Dalinar's party, and they just start attacking the camp. So Dalinar and the others have to try and race back across the plateaus to get back to the camp before the Parshendi just murder everyone in sight.
Ooh, okay. That could be interesting.
Yep. And so, yeah, Kaladin's trying to stop Moash from killing Elhokar at the time when, Parshendi war party attacks.
That would be a way to go. Like, hit them. They're coming out to find you, and you go around and hit them where they're not expecting it. That would be some good tactics for sure.
Yeah. As for the interludes, I think, yeah, it's like Ash and I is going to just hype up the new Stormforms and just be a big oh shit moment. Don't know what Lan is, like Joe said. I don't know if that's someone we've met before or heard of before or not. But yeah, Taravangian, I've got no fucking idea what to think of him. Like, I like to think that Seth will come back and murder him, but I don't know. Like, maybe he'll just hit on... Maybe Taravangian, we just get more clues as to the shards and stuff, because that's what he's doing with his bloodletting. So we'll learn more about the lore that way, and he comes across a massive bombshell.
Oh, that's an interesting... Yeah, maybe we're going to get some information out of these dying people. Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Taravangian, the interlude here is, I think, by far the longest of these 3 interludes. So we're going to get some information in there. It's going to be a fun one.
Turns out Taravangian has the same powers as Lift, and it's just Taravangian parkouring around his hospital.
That's a hell of a picture, like the old ancient king, like just zipping around.
That's my secret. I'm parkour man.
It's like Yoda. I really want that to happen now that you've said that. That sounds amazing.
Oh, no, combine it. Seth tries to kill Taravangian, and Taravangian starts using the Lift powers. So Seth is chasing him around with his wind powers, and Taravangian is just like, zip.
That would be a reveal. Like, Seth goes to kill him, and it's like, nope. bitch, look, I got powers.
Zip, zip, zoom.
Yeah.
Away.
Woo.
Now I'm trying to so would Taravangian have to have the same sort of spren as Lift does? I'm trying to imagine her stuffy spren with Taravangian.
Wendell.
Yeah, Wendell.
I don't know,
yeah.
maybe.
That could be amusing. Okay, I like this.
One of the dumbest things I've ever predicted. And I've made some doozies.
I was about to say, well, that's a high bar, my man.
Just this goofy old man being chased by the assassin in white.
Maybe he's secretly an amazing fighter also, just nobody knew. He's going to be better than Seth somehow. That would be real impressive considering what we've seen Seth do. All right, let's move in. We have some new patrons, so Joe, get your list ready there, and I guess let's do those first because we have a bunch of emails we're not going to be able to read.
Well, you haven't given me much time to get my list ready. Hold on.
I know, that's why I was vamping. I'm trying to remember where we left off last time. I think we did Chris. When we recorded last on December 14th, I think.
This cannot be the right list. This says amenopur stimulates the ovaries for in vitro fertilization. Yeah, I don't think this is the right list, guys.
That seems like the wrong list. You want a fairing list.
That's what I typed in, but that's what came up on Google. So that's not what we want. Hold on. Fairing list. Mistborn.
If we recorded last on the 13th or 14th, and this person joined on the 16th, that must be where we left off.
All right. I'm ready.
All right. So the first one at the ska level is Chris.
Chris, you are a seer. That's not a mist. That's not a fair chemical ability.
That's a misting power.
Oh, this list sucks too. Hold on. Let me go to I actually have this saved in my photos. Give me just a second. I'll have to redo that.
You're a seer. No, you're not. Damn it.
Okay, go again. What was his name?
Chris.
Like the great character.
Not spelled in the same way, but yeah.
No, yeah. You're a subsumer, Chris. You store energy.
Ooh, that's Bendaloy. That's what our friend Wayne burns. So if he was a Bendaloy misting, but also a Bendaloy fairing, he would be a compounder.
Super fast, yeah.
Energy. What would energy do for you? Okay.
Would energy allow him to slide more? To super slide?
So energy is storing nutrition and calories. So you eat lots of food, and so you'd never have to eat basically if you could compound that. You'd eat one time and then you'd be good.
Yeah.
You can also use a separate Bendaloy metal mind for storing fluid intake.
Gross.
So you could go a long time without food and water if you needed to as a compounder.
There you go. There you go, Chris. If you're a slider as well, then that's you. But otherwise,
if you're not,
a subsumer.
If you're not already a misting, go out and leave us a review, and maybe you'll somehow end up with that.
Yeah, if I remember the name Chris, and then I remember the other thing, then yeah.
It could happen.
It could. Probably won't.
Probably won't. The next new member we have at the ska level is Charlotte.
Charlotte, you are a soul bearer. You store investiture.
I don't know. We know what that would actually do yet at this point, so it's mysterious.
Yeah,
Charlotte joined our Patreon. Yeah, right. Charlotte joined our Patreon December 26th, so the day after Christmas. Welcome. Next, also at the ska level, Mad Tom K.
Sounds like a pirate.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mad Tom K with a name like that, you've got to be a spinner. You store fortune.
Fortune and Mad Tom K fit together. All right, sure.
Yeah, gambler.
There's a guy in Ender's Game. Is he called Mad Tom? No, he's called Crazy Tom. So, okay. That's just Ender's Game is just what I thought of when I saw that name. So I had to go and look. And our last new patron at the Shard of Adonalsium level is Nixus, NYXXUS. Nixus.
Wow, Nixus, thank you so much. Nixus, because you are at that level, that beautiful level, you can be a true self. You store identity.
Ooh, nice. And speaking of our patrons and the Patreon, I used the funds from January to go ahead and purchase some promotional stuff to hand out at Next Dragonsteel. I'm hoping to go this year. If not, I'll have it for the year after that. But I got those in, and they came out looking pretty cool. So it's gonna have to be a secret for now. But I'll show Joe and Dak and Jaymee maybe. But if you want our cool items, show up to that next Dragonsteel. I'm hoping that it won't be as hard to get tickets since what he's going to put out for that one is his like non-Cosmere short story collection. I'm hoping that won't be as popular as Stormlight 5 release year, and maybe we can get tickets without being stressed. But we shall see, I suppose. Let's do a few emails since we have so many. This one was when you get to chapter 84. We still haven't gotten there, so we're not going to do that one yet. All right, so this one is from Kastube. I think this email is titled "The Crew's Reaction to In Defense of Moash Has Me Baffled." Hi, Sanderlanche Podcast. It's my first time writing in, following the episode covering the end of part 3, where you read another listener's email titled "In Defense of Moash," which suggested that it's hard to blame Moash from harboring hatred towards the Light Eyes, and specifically towards Elokar, and that in this sort of society, a dark-eyed man like Moash doesn't really have any legal recourse to seek justice for his grandparents. Saying, Elokar was young, so it's okay, or everyone is mean to Elokar, so poor baby can be forgiven for neglecting his duties, or, well, I don't like Moash and he's probably lying anyway, felt like very dismissive responses to the premise and didn't really answer the question. Even if Elokar was young or influenced by others, or not fully the king, just the regent, does any of that mean Moash should forgive him and forget about his grandparents? His only family being thrown into prison without trial? What else can he do other than seek justice out himself? Seek a trial or something? In this society, if he doesn't take matters into his own hands, his only option is to forgive Elokar or just accept that he deserved whatever happened to him and his grandparents because he's dark-eyed and that's just the way it is. There is no in-between here, in my opinion. And then, I'm sorry if the tone sounds harsh. I just really like listening to the crew in general, and hearing such a dismissive tone towards someone who, in my opinion, is a sympathetic character was upsetting.
Understandable. I'm going to give the shortest answer I have is like, I don't think Elokar is the one he should be blaming here. I think it should be Rashone.
I was really sure you were going to be like, I'm going to give the shortest answer I can have here. Fuck Moash. But okay, that's fair.
Always fuck Moash.
That would be slightly shorter for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't want to hit on it too much because like, we have talked about it a bit. Like, do I think Elokar is blameless? No. I'm not a clever man, and I'm not someone who's very, very versed in legal judgments and whatnot in our own world, much less in this fantasy world. All I can go is what I've seen of the characters, and I think that. Yeah, I feel like Rashone is the one who should be blamed for this. I'm not saying Elokar is blameless, but I think that Moash is motivated by blame of the guy who's nearby to him rather than the one who's actually responsible. He's pissed at Elokar because Elokar was involved, and Elokar is the one that Moash now sees on a regular basis. So of course he's going to transplant that. If Rashone was here, would Moash be focusing his rage in that direction? Because he probably should.
It's an interesting point. I think we talked the last time about how while he has no real way of now he does. When he started, he didn't have any way of getting to the king. If he could track Rashone down, it would be much easier for a dark-eyed guy, especially one who was good with a spear, to get in there and do something to Rashone than to get at the king.
Probably. Yeah. He's probably ignorant of that involvement, would be my guess. He said, there was somebody advising him, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, now, and again, this person that wrote into us, thank you for writing in. We appreciate your input.
Yeah, not trying to shit on your views.
No, not at all. But I would respectfully disagree with you that Moash is a sympathetic character. I really don't have any sympathy for him. Is it sad that his family was unjustly imprisoned and they passed away? Yes, but to me, the strength of the character is in how they choose to, what they choose to do with what they were given, right? And so, for example, this is some of the pushback I have against Kaladin sometimes. Kaladin has been through a lot of crappy stuff, and sometimes he makes bad decisions. But most of the time, and I think this is the cosmic powers in this world kind of reward him. Most of the time he makes the right decision. He makes what we would consider the honorable decision, right? For Moash, to me, what he's trying to do, it's not honorable. And I think we, as the reader, we know that because when he decides to help him with it, his bond to honor the contradictory honors that he has set up, it directly affects him. And so that's why, for me, what Moash is doing is wrong, right? And Is it sad that what happened to him? Of course, but he has a choice too, just like everybody else. And like you said, his choice could be to forgive the guy. That doesn't sound like a great option for Moash. Doesn't sound like a fair option for Moash. But at the same time, now Kaladin gave him the ability to be more important and to make better choices by giving him the shard blade, right? And maybe at the outset, Kaladin gave him that gear so that Moash could carry out whatever justice he thought was fit. But at the same time, Moash now has the power to do what he wants, whether that, like, he now has the ability to get justice, not on Elhokar, but on Rashon, surely. He now outranks Rashon. So, like, if he was to know, like, Rashon is the guy who did this to me, essentially, he could go kill Rashon right now and no one would say anything.
Probably, yeah.
Probably.
So, there are other things Moash could do. His vengeance doesn't have to be on Elhokar. And, effectively, Elhokar, I mean, as much as Dalinar doesn't want to say it, Elhokar's not running the world. Dalinar is.
Yep. Yeah.
So his buddies,
that's definitely a thing that's happening.
His buddies who are like, oh, well, we have to kill Elhokar for the sake of the world. It's like, well, they don't. He's not running it anyway.
Fair. Like, you can get into all of the, and I'm not saying that any of the stuff that they wrote in their email is not fair or accurate even, but sometimes when it comes down to it, it's just like, Dak never liked Moash. Like, Dak took a hatred of Moash from the very beginning, pretty much. And we've established that happens sometimes. You find a character and you just don't like him. And so it doesn't even always have to be, like, reasonable. We're not Vulcans. It doesn't have to be illogical. Sometimes you just get, like, a knee-jerk, like, I don't like this guy. I don't like his stupid face. And so, it's going to end up with us not being generous when it comes to that character.
Yeah, and not just that, but this is a case of Moash against Elhokar, and Elhokar, as I mentioned before, for all his flaws, is someone that I find sympathetic in the way that, sorry, what was the name of our friend who wrote in?
Costume.
Yeah, Costume finds Moash sympathetic. I don't. I find Elhokar sympathetic. So I am biased. 100%, I'll admit that up front, and that is without doubt clouding my judgment, and I'm probably not looking at this rationally or in the same way other people would do so. That's on me. I can have no other explanation for that. It's just, I don't like Moash and I like Elhokar. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that might invalidate my opinion to you, and that is entirely fair. Like, go nuts. But that's just how I feel about it. I hate Moash. I'm sorry.
Yeah, on my first read through, I definitely didn't have as strong an opinion on Moash as you. I don't think I liked him much because he's all from the beginning kind of a jerk. I also didn't like Elhokar much my first read, so I don't think I was real invested in the disagreement between the two of them.
Yeah, fair.
Okay, well, thank you for writing in. Even if you guys just want to write in like they did to be like, I don't agree with what you guys did. I don't think you gave it a fair shake. Hey, it generates more conversation for us. That's we appreciate the emails. Yeah. Even emails that completely disagree with us.
Hey, look, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Not everything is for everybody. Not every character is for everybody.
And look, he wrote in because they felt we were dismissive of something. I'm like, that is something I would not like to be in regards of our discourse here. I don't want to be just outright dismissive of anything. Sure. Even if it's something I disagree with, I'm just like, well, we can dig into that. We can investigate it. So, that's definitely something I don't want to be.
Fair. The next email is was sort of specifically for me, but I'm going to go into it a little bit anyway, from Amanda Truthwatcher, and it's about Wind and Truth. And Amanda says, Data, I just want to let you know that I, at least, do not expect you to record your reactions to the whole of Wind and Truth. I realized it would be excruciating not to just be able to read through this Sanderlanche of a book once you have it. Maybe if you want to record something, you could do so on a reread. I believe most of us are just happy to be able to listen to the podcast in general. That's why I became a patron. Apologies to Joe, Dak, and Jaymee. You will need to read this one slowly when you get to it. So if you set it to a vote...
There was no danger of us reading quickly. Look at the glacial pace we do this entire show on.
Yeah, I think that's what she's saying. She's like, sorry, guys, you don't get that. If you set it to a vote, you have received my boon, hopefully without a curse, to be able to read the new book at your leisure. Thanks for all you do, Wazing to the time of next. So I did get that before I read through.
No, make him feel a little bit of the pain that we feel. I don't think this is something that's too much to ask here. We're doing it for all the books. He's doing it for all the new ones.
I think that was like November that she sent that. So I definitely got it before I'd gotten the book. And I appreciate the sentiment. I do. But I did commit to doing it for the Patreon. And I did. I have finished the book. I read through the whole thing, recording myself 3 chapters at a time. I used this 4 weeks when we were not recording new episodes. I was not spending a bunch of time editing new episodes to make it through that book, staying up to like 1 a.m. sometimes because I can only do a good record after the kids are in bed. And so I did it.
Look at you.
It is all recorded. I posted on our Blue Sky, which I've been trying to use that more than Twitter at this point, and I think our Instagram, about how it's like, got a new respect for my co-hosts after having to go through the book that slowly myself. Like, it's not easy. So, kudos.
You were still going through it quicker because, like, you didn't have to wait a week after every block.
That's true.
It's true.
You could literally, if you stayed up late enough, you could literally just go and then record and then go and then record and then go and record. So I still don't feel like you've actually had the experience that we've had.
The full experience.
Yeah, he's definitely not had the full experience.
But if you guys want to hear my reactions to Wind and Truth, they have been going up on the Patreon. It is up to, let me see what we're currently at on the Patreon. The most recent one that went up is chapters 51 to 53. And there's 2 more that out of, how many chapters were in that? Hold on. I will tell you. Wind and Truth. Let me bring it up on my Kindle app. It had, not counting the interludes since they're not numbered, it had 147 chapters, and I think it is 18 interludes. So 147 chapters, 162 with the interludes, and then if you count the prologue and epilogue, that's like 164 chapters. And I did 3 at a time, so that is a total of, it is about 54 and a half episodes that I recorded of that.
Jesus.
I did manage to get a bunch edited. There's still 2 that I've already edited and that haven't gone up yet. So I've gone back to 2 times a week while I could get ahead of it editing. Now that we're back to recording, I may slow it back down to 1 a week on the Patreon. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm not going to make any promises, but there should be at least 1 a week going up.
Man, we're not finishing like the fucking Stormlight books till like 2030.
Especially if we do some stuff in between them.
Yeah, right.
People have talked about how between book 4 and 5 is actually a real good time to do the Sunlit Man. So we might do that. I don't know. There's long enough before we get there that's a decision that can wait.
Jesus Christ.
But yes. So I appreciate the sentiment, but I did it, and it is done now, and we are posting those on the Patreon if you guys want to join and hear my reactions there. So let's do 2 more emails. This one has a rating that they posted somewhere, so I guess go back to Joe and find that listing list that you had while I'm reading.
Oh, yeah.
The title of this one is Pocket Casts Now Allows Ratings. And this one is from Siddhant, I think is how you'd say that. Siddhant here from India. I started listening to your podcast in January 2024, and it has been an amazing ride. I've been wanting to rate your show for quite a while, but Pocket Cast, my preferred podcast app, didn't have the option to rate until a few days ago. Anyway, I must say I really enjoy your podcast and have just listened to episode 111, The End of Shadows of Self. I listened to your podcast as a newbie to the books like Jaymee, Joe, and Dak, and am thoroughly amazed by their observation skills. I myself forget about several plot points until the author smacks me in the face with them. Also, about your point about catching up too quickly, it takes me 3 hours daily travel to and from college, and the only reason I haven't caught up yet is because I like to mix in Dresden Files and Wheel of Time podcast with yours. Yours sincerely, from Siddhant, and he includes, they include a 5-star rating on Pocket Casts.
Siddhant, that was a great review. I wish I could give you more than 1 misting power, but I'll make you a soother because that was a great review.
Not bad, soothing. I like that one. I also like to mix in some Dresden Files podcasts sometimes. I've never done one on the Wheel of Time because I read through those books so quickly.
Yeah.
Might be something to check out sometime.
I keep starting to read Dresden Files and getting a good ways in and then stopping. So maybe that's what I should do. Read a podcast with it.
Yeah, check out the one that helped inspire me to create this one is Unspoiled, about the Dresden Files, and
nice.
It's kind of fun. That's the same pair that do Dresden Files also did Harry Potter, which one of them had never read, and those were fun also. So
yeah. One
more email. Let's do. This one is from Disco Anxiety, who was somebody that joined our Patreon not terribly long ago. Probably about the time they sent this email. No, it was a bit before they sent this email. The title is, Do You Ever Cry, Goncho? And It says, hello, I checked just now, and it looks like I've been an active listener since August 5th. At episode 191, The Way of Kings, right now, so still a couple episodes left. A couple of points I want to bring up. You've probably seen my comment a couple of weeks back, message from the past. One, I need to express how relieved I am that you don't hate Lopen. Don't get me wrong, I was never a Spook fan. I was just indifferent, leaning towards cringy in Hero of Ages. Up to WTF when they made him the Lord Mistborn a legendary hero. Really? Out of all the people from Era 1, he was almost non-existent in the books until he started stalking that poor girl. That's beside the point, though. You kept mocking him for his Eastern street slang, which fair, which made me worry that you'd hate the Lopen. OMG, I'm so happy you don't. Yet. He's the best. Now that we're all on the same page, I propose to update the episode closure to Wasing to the Time of Next, Colo Gancho, P.S. Vasher. I don't know, do we want to drop crabs and go for Gancho?
No, people hate the crabs. We got to keep it.
Yep. The crabs was us.
Yeah. I do like Gancho though. It's a good phrase. It's a good phrase for sure.
If we didn't have crabs, we would definitely go Gancho, but like crabs was our thing.
And come on, don't tell me you don't know Roshar's World of Crabs.
It's true. It's very crabby. The next part says spoiler. Really? Okay, I'm gonna go on to number 3, the very last point that they make in here. Guys, do you ever cry when reading books? I don't mean when you were kids, but like right now. I'm a 33, family, dog, quote, manly man, and every time there's an act of exceptional bravery, friendship, humanity, kindness, caring, etc., I just tear up, sometimes literally bawling, like when Wax surprises Steris with wedding after coming from their adventure. You just knew when they landed, and he said he has something for her. Maybe I'm weird, and it's not a popular thing to feel that touched by these emotional scenes. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
No, I think having an emotional response to any form of artistic expression is very healthy, normal, even if it is like a major response like that. I think that is a part of what makes us human. So don't lose that, because I think that's important. And I don't think Brandon would write those moments if he didn't believe they were realistic and emotional.
I agree with everything Joe said. And I want to add the addendum. I cried reading a book not that long ago, so that was the whole thing.
Yeah,
which one?
I think I cry.
Yeah, I was reading a fantasy trilogy, the Tide Child trilogy. It's like a naval fantasy. Start of the series, it was very cold and aloof, and I wasn't sure how I was going to go, and I was compelled to read it, and I got to the end of the third and last book, and I sobbed. It got me.
Yeah. I think I cry every time. Again, spoiler for a book that came out in 2007. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to give you a couple seconds. 1, 2, 3. I think I cry every time that I read the last Harry Potter book and he flips the stone and all of his loved ones surround him. And he's like, will you stay with me until like the end? And they're like, yeah.
Oh,
that's very emotional.
Yeah. And another one would be like, I know our feelings on like the Kingkiller Chronicle are mixed, but there's a bit like not even midway through the first book where he, like in Trappist's basement where he's saying goodbye, every time I read that bit, it gets me. I know it's coming, and it still gets me every time.
Yeah, no, and I'm absolutely in the same boat, like 100% will. And if you guys listen to my reactions reading Wind and Truth, you're probably going to hear me when we get to certain points in there, like tearing up a little bit. I'm sure that you can hear it. So it happens. Harry Potter, there's a few points in there that do it for me too. And I think that the one Joe mentioned when he's walking through that is one of them. Honestly, I think early on in maybe even like the beginning of book 1, where you're finding out about his parents having died and Hagrid's talking about like pulling him out of the house and stuff. I think that really gets me sometimes. And, which is kind of weird, random point for it. But
yeah, a lot of the Harry Dumbledore conversations at the end of each book get you, because they always have really poignant conversations as well. So like those will usually get me going. Like, oh.
But books are one of the best about like I get really invested in the characters and stuff. And so like the end of Hero of Ages, where Vin and Ellen both die, destroyed me the first time and still gets me most of the time. There's not as much in movies. There was one movie that when I was college age would get me every time. And it's funny because it was Armageddon at the end when he's like saying goodbye to his daughter over the screen or whatever. And just like every time I watch that movie, which is silly because it's such a like crazy action, ridiculous thing. But So yes, absolutely agree that art can do that. That's making you feel things is one of the points of art. So no shade for feeling things. All right, so let us wrap this up. If you'd like to send us an email, the address is thesanderlanch@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram and Blue Sky and Facebook and Patreon. I've already chilled for that enough today. Remember, for next time, we are going to read the 3 interludes. So if you're following along, 3 more chapters. If you're following along, I'm sorry that you had to stop reading for a month. That was a little bit harsh. But, these things happen. But interludes 12, 13, and 14 for next time is what we'll be reading. So 3 chapters for next time. Music by Miracle of Sound. And Wuzzing to the Time of Next. Colo? P.S. Fasher. Crabs ahoy, Goncho. No, I don't know. I don't think that one.
Nah.
You forgot your name. Don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia, you've been through such pain, but you're growing stronger every day. Amnesia.